Good morning and welcome to our video lectures on artificial neural network. Uh, I am Dr. Jana and I will be dealing a class for you on artificial neural network ANN. This artificial neural network it is specially for this final year, fourth year BTech, and the syllabus it is there. I'll be showing the syllabus also. Especially in the syllabus, we are having the unit one, the biological neurons, artificial neurons, model of the artificial neural network, the various activation functions used in artificial neural network, the typical classes of network architecture. So these are things basically will be covered in the unit one. Dear students, once again welcome to these classes. This artificial neural network, we have a textbook I have written and it is available in Amazon Kindle publication in 2020, I think. And the soft copy of the book also it is available, and I will be regularly providing you the PowerPoint presentations, the assignments and other things, all supported documents related to our subject. This artificial neural network is a very interesting subject, especially topic for all branch of engineering, not computer science, for all branch of engineering, because people are using it just like a tools, ANN tool. But if you see the history, very long back, people started thinking about the anatomy of human brain. And starting from the evolution of mankind, the man is very much curious about the functioning of human brain, which is a wonderful gift by the God for which the human being is differentiated from the rest of the creation of God. And for a long time, it was a great challenge for the people to study and make a duplicate machine of the amazing process taking place inside the human brain. Say, almost 2000 years ago, people have started to discover the architecture of human brain, especially scientists like R.Y. Kajal, Hebb, and also Aristotle. They started to build the artificial thinking machines, so which gave birth to the concept and idea of artificial neural network. And as it has a deep-rooted area in neuroscience, they tried to make a simplified model of the biological neurons system and have drawn motivation from this kind of computing performed by the human brain. Fine. So this is the introduction to our artificial neural network. We'll be studying a lot of things on these things. Now let us start with the important things on these biological neurons. See, biological neurons or the neural network, whatever you say, two things are there. One is the neural network, which is biologically inspired, or the biological things that is related to human nervous system, the brain. And from that, what we are going to simulate the artificial neural network, some artificial neurons, synthetic neurons will be using. Okay. Now, in this introduction classes, we'll be focusing on this biological or the neural network. Okay. So these are biologically inspired, and the artificial neural network, what you are telling, they are biologically inspired. They are inspired from that original neural network, and they are computer programs. This is designed to simulate the way in which the human brain process informations. Here, artificial neural networks or ANN, it gather their knowledge by detecting the patterns and relationships in data and learn through the experiences and not from the programming. So that is the key things, because in the traditional programming, you run a program, you write a program and run. Here it is not like that. It has the ability to learn, and from the experience, it can also perform some work. That is the thing. And in ANN, it is formed from hundreds of single units, what we call it the artificial neuron or synthetic neuron, or we also technically call it as the processing elements, PE, processing elements. These processing elements, they are connected with coefficients. These coefficients, we call it as the weights, right? Which constitute the neural structure and the organized in layers. They are all organized in layers. And the power of neural computers comes from connecting neurons in a network. So that means the entire neurons are connected to each other. So that they are in network, they can communicate with each other. And each processing element has weighted inputs. Another thing is the transfer function, and the next one is the output. Okay, first we give some input, there is some transfer function, it is processed, and finally we get some output. So these are the things takes place there. Then the behavior of the neural network is determined by the transfer functions. So if you want to determine the behavior of the neural network, then you have to use a specific transfer function for the artificial neural networks. And also it is not only the transfer function, also it is determined by the learning rule and also by the architecture we are using. So we call it the NN architecture. The weights are the adjustable parameters. That means initially we can take some very less value of these weights, and you can update it. You can modify, we can make it more or less like that. And in that sense, a neural network, we call it as the parameterized system. We call it as the parameterized system. And the weighted sum of the input constitutes the activations of the neurons. Are you following me? So input is represented by a vector, say x, and the weights are represented by a vector, we say w. So x, w, and their summation, we call it as the actual output. Okay. Okay. The activation signals is passed through the transfer function to produce a single output of the neuron. So this is the idea. Then coming to the transfer function, this transfer function introduces non-linearity to the network. And ANN is of non-linearity. Linear till non-linearity, you can have some idea. Say, if the output can be predicted, for example, say I write y is equal to ms plus c in a straight line. So we can interpolate some in between points for particular value of x. What is the y? You can find it there. But here it is something different. It is not exactly predictable, so it is non-linear. Okay. And during training, the inter-unit connections are optimized until the error in predictions is minimized. Okay. So now inter-unit connections are optimized during the training. That is the main thing. And what is the purpose? What is the error? That is to be minimized or to be eliminated. Elimination is difficult, we can minimize. And once the network is trained and tested, it can be given new input information to predict the output. So that is the principle on which our artificial neural network works. Clear? Now the most important questions arises, and also it is a frequently asked questions: the difference between biological neurons and artificial neurons. The difference between biological neuron and the artificial neuron. You will take 4 to 5 parameters. Based on that, we'll differentiate between the ANN and the biological neurons. First is the speed. Okay, first is the speed. Let us compare what is the speed of ANN, that is the artificial neural network, and what is the speed of biological neurons. Biological neurons, they are slower in processing information, and they execute in millisecond. They execute in millisecond. 1/1000, that is the millisecond. And ANN is faster, and the cycles time correspond to the execution in nanosecond, 10 to the power minus 6. Okay, you understand what is millisecond and what is nanosecond? So ANN executes in nanosecond, and biological neurons executes in milliseconds. Fine. Then coming to then which one is faster? ANN is faster. Then processing. In ANN, we go for a sequential manner processing. So large number of instructions, they are executed in sequential manner. But while we are going for this biological neurons, here there is massive parallel processing of operations is going on there. Then coming to the size, in our artificial neural network, less number of neurons involved, so difficult to perform complex pattern recognitions. If you go for this processing, then we go for the size. In ANN, very less number of neurons are involved at a time. Even if you can take, but only less number of neurons they involve at a time, then it is difficult to perform very complex pattern of recognitions. But here in our biological neurons, around 10 to the power 11 neurons are there, and there is around 10 to the power 15 number of connections. That means each neuron is connected to each other like that. So it is easy to handle even if the complex operations. Right? Then the storage. In ANN, information stored in memory, and any new informations in the same locations destroy the old information. That means while you are learning, we may forget the old things. But informations in the biological neurons, informations adaptable, adjusting strength, new information is added without destroying it. Say suppose you are studying BTech. Is it necessary that you have to forget what you studied in your 10th, plus 2, or your lower classes? You never forget. Then coming to the fault tolerant. So ANN or artificial neural network is not fault tolerant, whereas biological neurons they exhibit some fault tolerant, right? Then the control mechanism, here one control unit is there which monitors all the activities of these computers. But in case of biological neurons, there is no central control mechanism to control processing informations in the brain. So that is the key differences. Okay, now let us summarize something in general. This neural network architecture, it is motivated by models of the human brain and the nervous system. And our current knowledge of the human brain is limited to the anatomical and the psychological informations. Okay, anatomical means what is the structure and all things. Psychological, okay, what is the psychology, what is the behavior, nature, all things. And the neuron, which is the fundamental unit of the brain, is a very complex. It is a biochemical and electrical signal processing unit that receives and combines signals from many other neurons through the dendrites. I'll show a picture there, you can understand what is the dendrites. And a biological neuron has three types of components such as the dendrites, soma, and axon. So dendrites are bunched into high complex dendrite tree which have wide surface areas. And the dendrites receive signal from other neurons, and dendrites tree are connected with the main body of the neuron called the soma. And the soma receives the incoming signal, sums them, and when sufficient input is received, then the cell fires. So this is the process what takes place in the biological neurons. If I'll give a diagram. In the diagram, you can clearly see how it works. In our next video, I'll show the diagrams. So there, we'll have the cell body, amoeba just like it looks, and the center one circular things, it will be the nucleus, whatever you say, and some thick root like things, it comes out of that one. So this we call as the uh, dendrites like that, and from that some branch roots it comes out, we call it the axon. So that is the thing what I'll tell you and show you the picture in the next video. Then coming to the functioning of the neurons. Okay, in the functioning of neurons, the transmission of signal from one cell to another at a synapse is a complex chemical process in which specific transmitter substances are released from the sending side of the junctions. The effect is to raise or lower the electrical potential inside the body of the receiving cell. So there is a sender cell and receiver cell. So we have to make a potential difference. With that potential difference, only electric current will pass. If the potential reaches a threshold, so we put a threshold. That means, so if it exceeds 10 or exceeds 1, it will fire, it will pass like that. It is just like filter. Potential reaches a threshold, and electric activity in the form of short pulses is generated. And when this happens, the cell is said to have fired. That means the information passes. And these electric signals of fixed length and durations are sent down the axon, and generally the electrical activity confined to the interior of a neurons, whereas the chemical mechanism operates at the synapses. Synapses is the contact point of the axons, and the dendrites serve as a receptors for signals from other neurons, whereas the purpose of the axon is the transmission of these generated neural activities to other nervous or the nerve cells or the muscle fibers also. A third type of neurons which receives information from muscles or sensory organs such as the eye or the ear also exist. Okay, so this is all about the introduction. In our next class, we'll be going for the ANN model. Okay, Till then, you please take care. And if any doubt, you can ask. And I request most of the people to join in the coming classes so that it will be easy for us to